Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Track D at HR Week. Wondering how to stay relevant in the digital era is one of the questions that we still do not know the answer to. Thankfully, Petar Kosovac is actually joining us now. Petar Kosovac is a corporate trainer and coach with global business experience. He's working for Hyperoptic Ltd, where he develops leaders in England and Serbia and is an external consultant. He's proud of the CIPD award for 2020, which he received as a member of the best team for learning and development in the UK. It's a great privilege to be able to host Petar Kosovac. Petre, the floor is yours, and thank you for coming.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you for such a nice welcome. I feel like in a phone booth. I recently put a green background so I can project things more easily, but I heard here I will actually use some resources from the computer, so I don't want to use it. So let's start. Can you see my screen? Hopefully you can. Okay, good. Staying relevant in the digital era. Now, if I could say this in one-liner, I would probably be a rich person. We'll try to cover this through different aspects. So we'll cover the motivation to stay relevant, the mindset, you probably all heard about that one, and then alertness and focus, like the things that I'm working the most in the last year or two, alertness and focus. So I'll cover a little bit in some research regarding the neuroscience and what can we use practically from it. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on. If you have any questions, I guess you can put comment on it, or we'll have some time on the end as well. So, importance of constant learning. My whole idea, I'm really into martial arts my whole life, and lately I'm in the mixed martial arts for the last 2 years. I'm following what's happening quite closely, and I really love the principle of mixed martial arts because it's mixing what works. If it doesn't work, you don't mix it. I used to train Aikido when I was a kid. I wouldn't mix that in the octagon for fighting, etc. So whatever works, you keep doing it. You use it. What doesn't work, you don't use it. And this is what I'm going to try to do. Just give you some different methodologies that work for me and work for the people I work for. Okay, so importance of constant learning. As you can see here, much of the information we acquire at school will be out of date by the time we reach our workplace. This is by the book from High Frequency Change from Tom Cheesewright. I have his book here. Actually listened to his lecture when I was in Birmingham 2.5 years ago, and it was very interesting. I mean, he's actually talking how to stay relevant. And this is what we are going to talk about, like how not to get out of date. And few things we need to cover. The first one is motivation, right? If you are anyhow into coaching or any kind of psychology, you know by now there are two kinds of motivation: towards the goal, right? Towards something that you want to achieve, and away from the problem. Like literally, I climbed Kilimanjaro. I wanted to be on the top of that mountain and take a picture for a local magazine and be published there, etc. And had that adventure, get on the peak. But I also changed my diet completely 2.5 years ago because it was away from. I never wanted to feel that acid in my stomach again. I never wanted to go to that exam again to put sondas in my body and stuff like that. So I changed my diet. I gave up on sugar completely. I went to SCD diet for 2 years and it helped me a lot. But it was around motivation. Motivation was there towards something or away from. So in order to build this, you need to ask yourself questions. What do I want, right? Why is it staying relevant, learning new things important for me, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is, if I don't do that, what will happen? This is away from. We are different, so different motivation works for each one of us. Some of us, like me, are a combination. Some are more extreme towards motivation, towards the goal, and some more away from. Whatever works for you, try all. So that's why it is important to know what's your mountain peak. Where do you want to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever your vision is. I love the mountain as if you haven't looked at Neil Gaiman's speech, it's called Make Good Art. You can find it on YouTube, lasts around 18 minutes. Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite storytellers. He's the person that wrote books such as American Gods, comic books like Sandman. He wrote scripts, movie scripts, and so on. and he did this lecture about explaining to young artists just finished the School of Art what they need to do in order to succeed. And he says, for me, everything was so easy in life. It was easy when I needed to make any decision because I knew the peak of my mountain for him was to live from writing. So whatever got him closer to that peak, he would say, yeah, I want to do it. Whatever got him away from that peak, he would say, no, that's not for me. So he started working as a journalist, and in one moment they offered him to become an editor in that journalist, in that newspaper. He said, no, it's just, even though the money is bigger, it just doesn't get me closer to my mountain peak. I would like just to give you, you can explore it further on, just to give you some ideas and food for thought. Here you can see GOST, make learning part of your strategy. Now, I'm working a lot with leaders, managers, I can say now across the world, across companies. Rarely I found leaders that know how to define what strategy is, right? They usually mix it with the goal or tactics, right? So if you really want to know a little bit more about the strategy, you can Google Rich Hover, for example, the CEO of Strategic Thinking Institute, find his manifesto on strategy, which means it's kind of different. You have here from Ghost or GOST, he says you need the vision. This is for him the goal. Then you need to objectivize that vision, which means put some steps, small goals, how to get there, make it smart. Then you need a strategy, is how to get to that mountain. For me, I have some goals, and for all of them, my strategy, I need to learn. I need to constantly learn. And then I can put that into practice, which is the tactics, the last word, right? The last letter. And then you want to be like, these are the books I'm going to read in the next 3 months. These are the courses I'm going to go. These are the challenges I'm going to put myself into so I can learn. I can constantly learn. So make sure you put learning as part of your strategy, because the learning is the most important thing you need in the 21st century, in the digital era. Things are rapidly changing. In 5 year times, you're probably not going to do the same work, just in 5 year time. So you constantly need to learn new things, need to adapt. Okay. I'm here to give you some tips of what I'm doing or what am I working on when I'm working with managers. So first time, what I see is people don't have time to learn. You need to prioritize your time. I love the quote from Peter Hawkins. He says, you have all the time in the universe, is how you prioritize that one. Now I'm aware, when I was doing some trainings last week, I asked people, okay, what is it you do and what's your hobby? And you can literally hear, well, this is my job. I don't have a hobby. I have kids. So yeah, in that sense, I can understand that one. Some people have some hobbies. They try to find time for themselves whenever you can. By all means, do that. What I find really useful is to create a master list. You can also Google master list. It's basically, what is your plan? What do you need to do in the next 6 months, a year, right? Make something. For my list, learning is really dominant. And in that list, I have everything, like which books I'm going to cover, which courses, as I mentioned, etc. All the things I plan to learn. And then in my to-do list, everyday to-do list, I put a little bit of something. Like if I'm going to read something from Harvard Business Review, follow some trends, do something on a regular basis, or from time to time, I need to put it in my to-do list. And just want to emphasize negotiate. If you haven't learned anything about negotiation, by all means, this is one of the most dominant skills you need to stay relevant. If for nothing else, in order to get some time for yourself, because interruptions will cost you, as you know already, a lot. So you need to negotiate. If you can say no. You can delegate if you're a leader or manager. One thing that everybody needs is to negotiate. If you don't know how to negotiate, again, learn the skill. At least I can recommend the book Never Split the Difference, or you have the master course on that, or you can go to so many courses, good courses with people when it comes to negotiation, but you want to learn that skill. When you can't say no to a client, you can't say no to an important stakeholder, at least you can negotiate, right? And that's, I can't emphasize it enough, okay? Moving forward, so now you have time. You decided your goal. You decided what you want to work on, okay? And you negotiated so you have enough time. Next thing is mindset. Now, there was a lot of discussions around mindset, And I guess you all heard about growth mindset from Carol Dweck. If you haven't read it already, by all means, do it as soon as possible. It's really good material, good content to know. Now, when you look at growth mindset, what does it consist of? So in the growth mindset, you will talk about accepting challenges, putting yourself out of the comfort zone, right? There will also be things how you put effort in things, right? Despite obstacles, keep going. How do you look at, or how do you perceive constructive feedbacks? Okay, and how do you look at the success of others and so on? But this, just by reading the book, doesn't mean it will work. I saw many organizations putting this as part of their culture, and then nothing changes. You need to make it behavioral. You need to put it in practice. Okay, so how to put growth mindset in practice? In order to put it in practice, one basic thing: learn something new. Right? Learn some new skill. Get out of your comfort zone. Learn how to sing, how to play a guitar. Learn how to ride a horse if you can. Learn how to dance, whatever it is. And it's not going to be easy, and that's the whole idea. I mean, if you're a kid or you're younger than 25, it's much easier to learn stuff. We'll talk soon about it. But when you are older, you really need to push yourself a little bit, right? And it's going to be embarrassing if you're learning how to ride roller skates now and you are quite older, or 43 like I am, now trying to learn some tango recently, trying to learn different things. It's not that easy. And it's not by comparing to others, it's just learning, getting yourself out of the comfort zone. You need that mindset. And the other one that works really good, and I would challenge all of you to do this next one as soon as possible, is to ask people for a feedback. Just ask them for a feedback. Now, there is a good book by, as I mentioned, I'll give you different books. Sheila Heen, talking about thank you for the feedback. And one thing that I found extremely useful is how to ask for a feedback. Now, she's also talking about, it's not, we made a big mistake in the 80s and 90s, she says. We teach people how, learn them how to provide feedback. We should just learn them how to receive a feedback. And she's talking about remove who gave you the feedback, remove how the feedback was given out of your mind, and focus on what. Open that present on the end that you can. If you just ask people, do you have a feedback for me? Most probably you will get, no, you're just doing fine. So there is a way how to ask for a feedback. First thing, ask an open-ended question and focus. So what is the one thing I should change in order to be better at whatever it is, right? Whatever it is you want to improve. Is it time management? Is it being more creative, being better with design thinking, or being better in communication, negotiation, whatever it is? Ask these people around you, your peers, ask them at work. And when you really build that muscle that you can, I'm not defending, thank you for the feedback, and you can digest and you can open that box the feedback represents and find, is there something there for you? When you practice that a little bit, only then ask your friends and family, especially family and close ones, your partner that you live in, because it's never going to be one thing with your partner, right? Then you practice in your personal environment. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to digest those feedbacks. But there is no shortcut for this one. You need to ask people for a feedback. Practice that. What I found that when people are getting into some levels of leadership, they don't even get feedback anymore. Nobody is giving them feedback. Yeah, it's all good. So they need to create this habit of asking for a feedback. And you want to build that habit as soon as possible. Okay. Next one, what I wanted to focus is the last topic is the alertness and focus. Now, for this one, I can really talk for a long time. Now, I would generally, again, tell you, check out Andrew Huberman, for example. He has a lot of good research on this one, how to stay relevant, how to learn new things. If you look at the L&D literature on learning transfer, you will soon find out that 75% of what you're just listening, you're going to forget in 5 days. 75%. 85% probably a little bit longer. So when I'm doing a training with people, they usually forget most of the things. In order not to forget, there are some strategies. One of them is do something as soon as possible. So you just listen to some things, do some of those as soon as possible. So write it down on the piece of paper, make some commitments. in the next 5 days, I'm going to ask someone for a feedback, right? Something like that, and do it. That's really important for the learning transfer. So you keep using those things. The other thing you want to do is talk to people, tell them what you just listened, right? This is the reason when I'm doing trainings, I always push managers to talk with the participants, their managers. So when they start talking about it, they're again digesting the content, and it's a bigger chances they will learn it, they will use it, continue to use it. Now, let me just ask you to try out a few things. Alertness and focus. What does this what are we talking about? So first, alertness, that means that you're awake, you're there, you're present. Now, there is a big chance if you are doing something else while listening to this that you are not present, you are not alert. So you need to do one thing at a time. Multitasking for two new things doesn't exist. If you need the concentration on something, you can't do two new things. So you need to choose one. How can you help yourself to be alert when you're learning something new? Few things. If you are teaching somebody something new, tell them a story. That usually puts people in a good mood, alert. When we all like to hear some stories. The one thing that you can do for your own is a breathing exercise to wake you up. You can do those if you have kids. Explain this to them. So just, I guess you all heard about Wim Hof kind of breathing, like when you're ventilating a little bit. Do that 15 times. You're going to wake up, definitely, right? This could help. So just to be alert. The other thing is to focus your eyes. When you're focusing your eyes, you're telling your brain to focus. Now, until the age of 25, we can learn passively and actively. After the age of 25, we can only learn actively. So we need to focus. That's not that easy. So focus. Yes, you can follow some tactics like in the morning, hour and a half or 2 hours after you wake up is probably going to be your best focus. Not for everyone. For some people, it's not. Most people earlier during the day, your focus is going to be better. So few things you can do. First, you can use the, how do you call it, white noise. Put it on YouTube, Deezer, whatever you're using, just white noise in the background. It will help you focus. Also, the thing that I just mentioned, find a spot, one dot. You can just look at the screen, and in the middle here, you can see the gray car in the picture, right? In the focus lens. Focus on it for 30 to 60 seconds. Just look at one dot without blinking. That's going to send some signal to your brain. Now it's time to focus, because brain is lazy. After the age of 25, you need to give a brain a good reason to learn something new. Good news is that, yes, we can learn even after 9 years of 90 or 100, we can learn. You can learn old dogs, new tricks. We know this already from research based from the 90s. We can, but it's a little bit harder and different than when you're younger. So you need to focus. And I love how one neuroscientist explains the focus. It's like getting into the sewer. So it's all stinky and smelly and hard, and you need to walk through, right? And when you start learning something new, I remember when I was in college, I need to learn something, and you go and you start learning, and it's so difficult in the beginning, especially if you don't like the content, if you're not that much into the content or not really eager to learn that one, then it's quite harder, right? So you need to push it through. You need to walk through that, and then you're going to get into the clean waters. It's going to be easier, much easier, but you need to push it through when you're learning something, and it's going to last for an hour and a half. Then you need the break. So few more things when you are learning something new. If you can make it interesting for yourself, that's great. If you ask me anything about martial arts, when I was younger, I used to train martial arts for 18 years, different martial arts, and I knew everything about Japan, history of Japan even. I didn't know about my own country's history as I knew about Japan, because I was so interested in it. As the famous comedian named Chris Rock, he says, well, when you have a career, time flies so fast, right? You just look at the watch, oh, it's already 2 p.m., I need to do this and this and this, and you're full of enthusiasm. But when you have a job, as he mentions, time just drags. Then you want to, if you're working in a corporation, you have a job that you're not that interesting, As he put it, people tend to spend a lot of time in a toilet reading something, just avoiding their job. So whenever you can, you want to have a career, not a job, to do something that you're interested in. That's great. Sometimes you need to do something or need to learn something that you're not that interested, but you need it in order to cover some gaps, right? Or for your line of work. So in that sense, you need those two things, alertness and focus. Now, why do we have more and more problems focusing in the 21st century? Is because we are over focused. We are constantly on our screen, on our phone. We are checking the Instagram, checking the Twitter, checking the Facebook, checking all kinds of social medias, YouTube, and so on. So you kind of spend your glass of focus. Okay. So you don't want to do that. The thing that you want to do as soon as you finish this meeting, as soon as before you jump into the next lecture or anything, defocus your eyes. How do you do that? Well, if you're lucky to have a window in front of you, like I do, take a look at the horizon and defocus your eyes. If not, just look at the wall, activate your peripheral vision, and look at the wall on the side of you with your peripheral vision, right? This is gonna defocus you a little bit. And this is what you want before you jump into another focus. Also, what they do on Stanford, where they're learning something new constantly, they have this so-called power naps. Because when you are sleeping, you are learning the most. Okay. And I'm aware that I have 2 more minutes. So when you are sleeping, you are learning because you're going to digest all the things you just listened to. If you can have a power nap after this one, that'll be great. There is an alternative suggested by a neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman. Test it out. Don't trust me. Try it out. Do the yoga nidra. Just Google, or actually on YouTube it, as the younger population says. Write down yoga nidra. Click on it. Check it out. Right. This will defocus you. This will calm you down. I usually have a nap when I do yoga nidra, and it's just easier for me to remember most of the things. Okay. Now the final one, you know how to learn. Let's say that you will practice some of these things, you will check them out, you will have the goal, you will have the strategy. What do I need to learn constantly to stay relevant? So I just split this into 3 areas that you can focus on. Focus on your customer. It could be an internal customer in your company. It could be the external customer, right? Whoever it is, focus on your customer. Who is your customer? You can use empathy map to define your customers, right? Empathy map used very much in design thinking. So again, Google it. There is so much good content you can find for free. So, okay, will do. So Google and do an empathy map. This is basically positioning yourself in the eyes of your customer and then just asking those kind of questions. What do I think? What do I feel? And those kind of things. Okay. How do they feel? So feel who your customer is. The next one, follow the trends. There are different kind of things you want to follow for your line of work and different from mine. But I try to follow the trends, try to follow the research, the latest stuff that is happening in the L&D world. Also, when it comes to leaders, what's going on with them, and how will this trend influence my customers? My customers are leaders, managers of different companies. So I'm constantly asking myself this question, because now we have a trend of artificial intelligence. Will I be relevant for doing coaching or team coaching or just trainings in a 5-10 years time, right? So I need to ask myself those questions. How will they influence my work, right? And on the end, you want to think about skills. Which skills do I need in 2-year time, in 1-year time, in order to stay relevant? If you ask, for example, the Tom Cheesewright, he was constantly talking about most important skills such as communication, because human communication is going to be more and more rare. So you really want to be good at it when you have the opportunity. Creativity will be more and more important. I would emphasize collaboration. Coaching, you don't have to be a coach, but just being able to ask proper question when you're guiding teams or you're guiding conversation, right? If you need some technical skills, by all means, but being able to define a problem and also being able to constantly learn new things. Okay, this is what I wanted to present in this short amount of 20 minutes and give you some food for thought. I know it's short and I know it's a lot of information, but do check it out and make sure that in the next 5 days you do something, try out something, at least ask people for a feedback with an open question. So having that in mind.
Thank you very much. This was a very insightful talk, and I especially focused during the part about giving and receiving feedback. I think that's a very important topic that we do not focus enough attention on. So I think that our time is up. Unfortunately, I could stay an hour and listen to you more, but thank you very much for participating. Thank you for contributing to this year's HR Week, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Likewise. Bye to
Thank
all.
you. Bye.